Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and I have back with me Erin Wilkins. And Erin's been a guest on this show for, about a little more than a year now. And it's great to have you back. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Doing wonderful. Had a massage last night, so
Nice.
I am definitely feeling it and chugging water and flushing today.
It's so funny. People, first of all, there's all kinds of different massages. So, you can go everything from a, soft, easy Swedish massage with a happy ending all the way to a deep tissue, better relax or you're going to not be able to move tomorrow. And
Yep.
there's everything in between. And I remember years and years and years ago, I had a good friend who was a massage therapist, and I also grew really good pot. And so it turned out that in exchange for my really good pot, I would get a massage every week. And she'd come out to my place and she taught me how to relax through a deep tissue massage. And man, it's not for everybody, that's for sure. But if you can do it, it can be incredible. And I remember going through, she had this whole routine, and you get to kind of know the routine. And she's like, okay, I'm going in, and she would literally separate the layers of the muscle and go down underneath into the other ones. And if I even twitched, it would be like brutal. and, but I tell you what, you were just talking about flushing with water and all of that. If I didn't do that, you ended up feeling pretty lousy the next day. But if you did, you worked right through it. And it almost took like 2 days, it seemed like, before you really got the full, really feeling good. But, it just depends on everything. Now, tell me about that. Like, why does that happen? Like, I don't even, you're just getting your muscles rubbed. Why in the heck does that, why do you need to drink a bunch of water after all that and flushing and all that stuff?
So well, you put a lot of materials and stuff like within your body. So for me personally, I have heavy metal poisoning.
Okay.
So about every 3 weeks, I go for a massage, not to relax, but because like it starts to hurt and I get deposits where it acts almost like fibromyalgia within my body. And so it's got to be pushed out. And so as you start pushing, of course, it just starts free floating in your body, and you just need to chug so that it comes out in your urine and in your feces rather than just floating in your body and causing pain.
Do you do anything like charcoal or anything to bind it and grab it? And
me personally, I don't, but I see a lot of clients who, whether they've taken medications or they have gotten injections and vaccines, things like that, I will definitely encourage the use of charcoal to bind any of that to flush out of their body.
So how did you get all this heavy metals? I mean, I know that, probably everybody's got heavy metal poisoning because of the environment we live in today, even just drinking the water or eating fish or anything like that. But do you know the source of your toxins? Are you just very sensitive? Or, I mean, it's like everybody's different.
Yeah, no. I actually, when I ended up finding out about it, I almost died from arsenic poisoning because here in Idaho, the levels are really, really high. So unbeknownst to me, I have uranium poisoning, which picks up the arsenic.
Oh, great. So do you glow in the dark?
I wish I did.
It had to be a superpower, yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny because it was uranium crosses the blood-brain barrier. So through my teenagehood, I was diagnosed with a lot of different mental illnesses that weren't mental illnesses. It was actually the uranium causing problems with my brain. And so that came from the engineering laboratory in Idaho Falls, got a bunch of depleted uranium from Iraq. No storage facility, so they just threw it in the ground. It leached into the water supply.
Go wrong.
Yeah, and we had a huge garden growing up, so they think it came from that. Yep.
Oh man. So how are you with spiders?
With spiders?
Yeah. Isn't that how Spider-Man got his powers?
Oh man, I wish I had superpowers, but it actually for energy work and for muscle testing and using the rods and the things that I use, it's actually been beneficial
Oh,
to
good.
have some of that. It just the rods seem to work a little bit better with the metals in me, but
And then you don't turn green into a giant monster when you get angry or anything?
I might
Oh,
need
because that
to
was the
like
whole thing too. Didn't he eat some radioactive stuff and turn into this whole thing? I don't know.
yeah, well, I'm Irish, so we already have those.
Ah, yeah, got it. You got that. Your eyes roll back in your head and things go really weird sometimes.
Yeah, yep.
I love it. I love it. So, when we talk about detoxing, I mean, it's like it's a big it's a big term, and your body naturally detoxes all the time. That's what your kidneys and your liver and a lot of your organs, that's what their whole job is, to your lungs. That's it. All they're
Oh
doing,
yeah.
pulling the crap out so you don't accidentally get it in your cells, right? So
Yep.
your skin, your nose hairs, I mean, your teeth, your mouth, everything has got this, protecting your body from outside toxins, yet they always get in.
They do.
As they come smaller and smaller. Now we got microplastics and nanoparticles, that some of them are good, but not all of them are good. And if they're not good, you got these forever chemicals and things like that that are literally ubiquitous, like they're in everything, everywhere, all the time. And you can do things for your body to help. And like, I know that drinking water is good, but people even take that to extreme. I've heard people are getting water toxicity more and more because they think it's good to drink 5 gallons of water in a day. And it's like, okay, well, you're never going to stop peeing, number one. Number two, you won't have any electrolytes by the end of the day. Your brain might not work very well. Your heart might stop beating good, but whatever.
Exactly.
What could
Yeah.
go wrong?
Yeah. Well, that's just, there's a balance in everything, I mean, you're not ever supposed to, any good thing can turn very toxic if it's overdone. So,
So true, so true. So, um, you know, it seems that it's impossible to avoid toxins, at all toxins. You can avoid high concentrations of some toxins. You can decide, I'm not going to drink soda, and so I'm not going to blast my body with sugar and corn syrup, and I'm not going to maybe eat McDonald's because it never goes bad. And
true.
or whatever. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
substitute eating fast food chain for McDonald's, is I don't have a personal beef with any of them, other than they're not serving food. But I mean, even breathing the air, it's funny because when the COVID was running rampant, everybody was panicking and wearing their masks. I thought to myself, you guys are just fools. The masks aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. In fact, they're probably working backwards, because you're breathing your own waste all day long. But masks have a great function if you're out in the dust, or if you're in a
Yep.
place where, I have chronic lung condition, and I buy cases of masks because when I'm out in the dust, I wear one and it keeps me from dying. It's great. And
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
but they don't do what they're supposed to do when it comes down to getting something that's so small that can go through anything, just about. It's not going to keep it out. So when you think about it, you go, is there some kind of a regimen that you can recommend, or some kind of a protocol that would, first of all, avoid undue exposure to toxins?
I mean, I think the number one, I see a lot of clients that I work with detox, and it's individualized to each person depending on what they've intaken. And I mean, biggest thing is your immune system. As long as your immune system is up where it needs to be, you're not going to be battling all these things all the time. I do a foot detox machine that I use a lot with people that have been exposed to, let's say they were on a bunch of steroids for a while and they're just trying to pull that crap out of their body pretty fast. I've also done it with addiction centers. I helped treat a bunch of women that were coming down off of meth, just to pull that stuff out of the body. So that's a.
So tell me about that foot system.
Mhm.
I know a little bit about it. I mean, I think we had one at one point, but I never understood it. And apparently you put some liquid in this thing, you put your feet in it, and all of a sudden water turns black. And
Mhm.
I heard from somebody, it's not what you think it is. I have no clue. I don't know anything about it. And I'm just
Yeah.
curious, I mean, like how does it work? What does it do?
Yeah, there's a lot of knockoffs out there, so you have to really be careful that you get ones that aren't just colors changing, or like those pads you put on your feet that just magically like turn colors.
Right, right.
That's not,
Look at all the goo I got out.
yeah, that's not doing anything. So
Yeah.
what I use, it's an aqua chi machine, and it's an AC/DC current that you put your feet into, and it's plugged in. So people always think they're getting electrocuted, but you're not. And it works with salt. So we
Okay.
have 2,000 pores in the bottoms of our feet. So then what'll happen is, as the current goes, it'll enter your pores, hit every organ in your body, and then just pull whatever's out. So the water changes color based on what organ was hit. So if I'm dealing with a smoker, I expect that water to be pretty brown from the lung debris. When I use it, because I have heavy metal, it looks like an oil slick. It's disgusting.
Okay.
Gallbladder stuff will turn it green. So it's very geared to what it's actually pulling out. And that's only 10% of what comes out. The rest, 90% for 72 hours, it's inside your body. It's coming out.
Right.
So it's very, very effective. And so I'll sometimes do a weekly treatment for people if we're trying to hit something pretty hard, if they were exposed to. I had a mechanic I was seeing for a while that got exposed to a lot of different fumes in his work, and he was really sick. So we hit him really hard once a week for about a couple months. But yeah, it can be very, very effective.
I knew a guy once that was a jeweler, and he was always welding silver and stuff like that. Ended up getting cadmium poisoning from the welding rods that he was using. And it was, I don't know what ended up happening to him, but I remember it was really not good. And kind of a, we get exposed to things not realizing necessarily, or maybe we do know and we don't pay enough attention. And I was a painter for 20 years, and I wore my mask-ish, I did sort of protect myself some of the times, but I can remember, spraying oil-based enamel paint in the bathroom and coming out, and I'd just be high as hell. And I'm like, wow, this can't be good. Or washing my hands with lacquer thinner, and when it's all done, your hands are all dry, and you think to yourself, wow, what have I done? And
Yeah.
and you wonder, like, what kind of permanent damage was done, or I believe your body can kind of repair itself from most things. But when it comes to removing these toxins, I know you have a lymphatic system that is pretty good at it's pretty much your immune system central hub, and takes care of most problems, but you got to be moving around for it to work good. So when
Oh
you
yeah.
don't feel good and you're laying in bed all the time, your lymphatic system's probably not doing a whole lot. And
Mhm.
so, is there something to be considered about, keeping in motion as far as, um, trying to make sure your own systems are working right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, either some form of exercise. And I think people have this concept of like exercise. I've got to go to the gym 3 days a week and do all these reps and all of these things. And you know what? Just getting out, breathing air, breathing
Right,
in
right,
and
right.
of
Get some
itself.
fresh air. Maybe
Yeah.
jump.
Yep.
I heard jumping's really good. Just
Yep. Jump, go
jumping
for a
jack,
walk.
the old
Yep.
jumping jacks. It's just bouncing and getting things shooken up and moving around. It's good. Get your heart rate up and all that good stuff.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's also different kinds of toxins, and some of them are oil soluble, some of them are water soluble, some of them are some combination, some of them end up sitting in your fat cells, some of them end up in organs, some of them crystallize and end up in your gallbladder or your kidneys and turn into stones, and all of these things can happen. And I know, like, I lost 50 pounds about 5 years ago, and I was concerned as I was losing this weight that I thought, gee, I hope I don't end up hitting a spot where I unleash a bunch of toxins. And so as I was, hitting certain markers, I was going through taking care to do things like taking charcoal and just, eating a lot of fiber and a lot of stuff, making sure my systems were working real good and flushing everything out good as I could. But it's something to consider. Like, you got the world, United States especially, just walking around with these obese people, and now you got these drugs that people are taking to lose weight. And I can't help but wonder, because these drugs just popped up on the scene and nobody knows about long-term effects. Nobody knows about any kind of toxic shock syndrome or whatever the hell might come of it. But what are your thoughts about, where some of these toxins are stored and what you can do to prevent that from being a problem?
Yeah. Well, America's really awful for this, but I mean, yeah, number one place that it gets stored is in our fat.
Right.
So that's right where it goes. And so I know I worked with a lady who was it was a nutritionist program that I was running with her, and she was trying to lose like just this last 20 pounds. And we were trying to get her to eat healthy, get her proper sleep, but it just wouldn't come. And then in the course of talking to her, we found out that she was a nail technician and had been exposed to so many toxic fumes. And so that was storing within her fat cells, all of those fumes and those things that she'd breathed in. And so, yeah, that's one of the hardest places.
Right.
But usually when people do come to me for weight loss, I always view it as weight loss as a byproduct of a healthy lifestyle. So as you start limiting your exposure to fumes to as much as you can, that weight will just kind of drop off.
Yeah.
But
I think anytime you get too extreme with anything, you run the risk of accelerated problems. I was on a mission to drop that weight, and so that was why I was concerned, because I was aggressively going after it. I was done being overweight, and I just said, this is going to end. And I have a bit of a tenacious mind, so once I set my mind to something, it's going to happen. But damn the torpedoes and suffer the consequences. That's the thing I was trying to avoid. I did about almost 4 years ago, 3 years ago or so, I got a steam sauna, and best thing I ever did. And between that and the pool, I consider those to be, quintessential tools for health. And however, after a good sweat, sometimes you feel a little weird, and you get a little woozy, a little dizzy, a little, I mean, like I said, I go kind of extreme sometimes. So I'll drop 3-4 pounds in one sitting just of water, and whatever other gunk comes out of you, because you don't know what, you don't know what it is, but it's certainly, it's not pleasant. It's not pretty.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts about, as a detox tool, or is there shortcomings, or is there, I mean, I know a lot of people are into the not microwave, infrared. I don't think they have microwave saunas.
The microwave sauna.
Infrared saunas. A lot of people are really, big on that. But for me, I love the steam. Like, you just feel it, and it's just intense and hardcore, and makes me feel.
No, and I actually just a couple weeks ago purchased a steam tent, because steam is it's super important to, I mean, the infrared thing, I don't know tons about it, but just looking at the mechanism of what it does to your body, it just feels like you're sitting under like a lizard light to me, as opposed to flushing and causing your body to sweat, because that's a super important thing. It's our body's created to do that, to sweat and flush stuff. And so, especially if you're introducing some herbs or different things like that to that steam tent, can be very powerful.
So what do you think about the notion? I guess this is probably going to leapfrog into a 201 course here, but about apoptosis or autophagy, where your body starts shedding its weak and dead cells. And you know, people doing cold plunges and steam saunas,
Mhm.
extreme activities to promote that behavior, or even fasting can cause that to happen. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts about that as an extreme sort of a detox? Like, you know, your own body is toxic in some ways, you know,
Mhm.
and you have dead and dying and deformed cells that are replicating in you, and your body's got systems to remove them. Like it's built to replace
Yeah,
itself.
it is. Yeah. I think that there's a balance. I mean, personally, fasting can be good, but I always go towards intermittent fasting where you're just prolonging when you have breakfast, you're having a very small meal at lunch and prolonging when you do dinner, and just kind of that intermittent. I really believe that when you shock your body by plunging into water that's freezing cold, or, I mean, yeah, you may have positive things that come out of it, but I honestly don't think it's a good idea to shock our bodies. Our
It
bodies
could
know
certainly
what,
cause a problem. Like your
yeah,
body is designed to react in a certain way, but it also
yeah,
short circuits sometimes, and that's a good way
yeah.
to blast out a battery or whatever. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that sometimes depending on the person and what's going on internally with them, you could actually cause harm.
Mhm.
Um,
Agreed.
instead of like making it happen. I mean, I've seen people pass out just
Oh yeah.
from, those extremes or different things. And so, yeah, I don't ever think like crazy shock to do to yourself. I mean, all in all, our body knows what it wants, and you just have to give it what it needs. And it shouldn't be a complicated process.
Well, I think that, you know, it your body, I believe, has all the tools to heal itself, but then
Yeah.
our mind and our choices are the influence on what is causing us harm. And, you know, the air
Sure.
we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the substances we put on our skin or let come in contact with us, or even come near us. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you know about it, sometimes you don't. Like you're saying, you know, eating out of your family garden, you would think that's like the best thing since sliced bread, but you don't realize certain plants, kale, sunflowers, some of these plants are their job is to take toxins out of the soil, and they do a
Yep.
really good job of it. So if you had a bunch of toxins in your soil and you're growing some of those plants and eating them, you're going to get concentrated, you know, doses of some of these toxins well beyond what you would be subjected, even if you didn't wash your hands and ate your food or whatever, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I guess, I mean, you know, there isn't any super safe set of rules that you'd say, well, if you just do this, you'll be okay. There really isn't that.
No,
It
no.
all seems to come down to the individual. You got to be mindful. You got to get to know yourself. It always comes back to that same old set of rules where, you know, it's your responsibility, and you got to get to know what works for you. And if you're going to go and do something more extreme, then, you know, prep for it, or research it, or decide. And what about this, you know, this foot bath? Is there any danger for any type of person? You know, like say somebody's immune compromised, or I don't know, maybe he's prone to seizures, or who knows what. I mean, any kind of
Mhm.
problem that you might have, is that a potential hazard?
Yeah, if they have a defibrillator, obviously, because you've got this an electrical implant that then you're putting your feet in an electrical current. So I won't do anybody like that. I also won't do anyone that's pregnant because it could actually cause a miscarriage.
Yikes.
The electrical currents. And then kids, you can do it for kids, usually 11 and up, but you just have to do it for shorter. But other than that, it's more just pregnancy and if you have an electrical implant.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, I think that covers our topic and our time, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. And I'm glad
You
to
as well.
get you back in our routine here. Anything you want to plug or pitch or talk about at the end here?
No, just if anybody's got any questions about anything, I'm here, and all my info's down there somewhere, and
It is. It's right there in your profile.
hit me up. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Erin. Always a pleasure. Thank
Thank
everybody
you.
for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
All right.